Hello coders, this is Jared with Renaissance Coders. If you want to see more videos like this one, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The fancy YouTube algorithms will rank us higher and enable us to keep making great content for you. Thank you for your time, now let's get into the video. Okay guys, in this video I'm going to review the Mac version of Visual Studio. Now I do want to point out that the application that I am reviewing here is the newly released Visual Studio for Mac and not the Visual Studio Code editor tool that was released previously. Also, this video is definitely a little different from our typical types of videos, but I wanted to see if this type of video could be something that interests you guys. So the first thing that I want to cover is what is the Visual Studio application that has been released for Mac. Well, in Microsoft's own words, the Visual Studio application is a mobile-first, cloud-first IDE made for Mac, and it includes Profiler 1.5.4 and Mono Framework 5.0.1. Okay, when you go through the installation process for Visual Studio on Mac, you have the option of including several platforms and a tool set. The platforms are Android, iOS, and macOS, and the tools portion is Workbooks and Inspector. Now, I should point out that the mobile platforms are provided via Xamarin Forms. If you don't know what Xamarin Forms is or you haven't heard about it before, then a quick description would be that Xamarin Forms is a cross-platform UI toolkit that allows developers to easily create native user interface layouts that can be shared across Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. Let us know in the comments if you're interested in learning more about Xamarin Forms. Now, the actual downloading and installation process can take a little while to complete because we are downloading approximately 4 gigs worth of data. So this process will really depend on your download speed. Now, for me personally, the installation process took about an hour and a half, maybe about an hour and 45 minutes. And really, it was the installation that took a really long amount of time. The download happened pretty quickly for me, but the installation took quite a while. But after that, we can choose to open up the Visual Studio IDE, and you can see that here. So this is what you will see when you first come into Visual Studio IDE, and for this review I'm going to primarily be using this alongside Unity. So the first thing I wanted to do really is get a look at the interface. So as you can see, it's kind of Xcode looking. It's a little bit different than what we're used to, but it is reminiscent of Xcode to me. I want to see if we can actually update some colors, sort of the theme of it. So if we go into our preferences, let's see what all we can do in here. Visual style. It looks like it is going to let us go dark. Well, that's not very... It doesn't make a lot of sense. It looks like you have to click and hold and let go to change these. That's not very intuitive. So let's restart and see what the dark theme looks like. And one thing about this application that I've noticed is it takes a while to start up. It's fairly typical for primarily Windows applications that are pulled over to Mac. Another example would be Photoshop. Photoshop takes a pretty long time to open. Well, that was actually pretty quick, and I have to say I actually really like this dark theme. I like the dark themes for the most part, so this is pretty cool. Let's see what else we can do inside of our preferences. Okay, so it looks like we've got some author information, so we can create some just information about us in here. We can do some key bindings, so just sort of changing up some shortcuts, things like that. Change our fonts. I've got the pretty standard code editing fonts there. Tasks. Interesting. External tools, projects, so we can load save projects. This is setting our default location for the project. We can build. It's just sort of changing some of the options within here. Let's see, Android. Interesting, so you can change some the emulator launch arguments. That's cool. Publishing for Apple, Android, and Google Play. So this will actually allow us to add our IDs in here. Let's look at what we've got in the text editor. Okay, so we can enable code folding, things of that nature, markers and rulers. Those are always really useful. Behavior. Let's look at the IntelliSense here. So again, I'm just sort of stepping through this really quickly, because this isn't all that important to what we'll be doing. I really want to get into editing a Unity file to see how the IntelliSense and everything works with that. So let's see here. Let's close this out. Let's check under extensions. Let's see, game development. Okay, it looks like it's automatically enabled. Very cool. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be automatically enabled or not for this IDE, but it looks like they automatically enable that for us. So that is very cool. See if we've got any updates. Doesn't look like it. Okay. What I want to do now is actually open up a Unity project and then go through some editing on that. So I'm going to open up a recent project I've been working on. And the project I'm actually going to be opening is from our scripting series, so if you haven't watched those videos, you should definitely go check those out. It's kind of cool. Of course, I'm using Unity 5.6.0. Okay, so I've got my Unity editor open here. What I actually want to do is go and change my preferences so that I open up in a different text editor. Right now I've got it set up to open up in Sublime Text, but I actually want to start opening inside of Visual Studio just to see what that's like. Let's browse, and we're just going to choose the Visual Studio.app. See if this works here. Okay, so it looks like it accepted that. Now let's go ahead and close that out, and let's open up a file or two. So we're going to open up our scripts. We're just going to open up a spawner script here. Actually, let's open up the destroyer script. So it looks like it opened. Very cool. Not sure how I feel about that color theme or the theme here, but that's not too bad. Let's see if I can increase the size there. That's not bad. So let's actually play around, see what we have as far as auto completion. So I'm just gonna start in here and say transform dot position. No, doesn't look like it wanted to autocomplete. Let's see if we can add some variables, see if it picks up on vectors. Looks like it's not picking up. So it looks like the IntelliSense is not necessarily working much better than Sublime Text does. See if maybe we can help it out a little bit. Tools, no, project. Nope. Tell you what, let's open up the project here. So we're gonna not save that, and we're gonna open. Okay, let's open up this guy, see what happens. Okay, so it's opening that up. Here we go. Scripts, packages, destroyer. Now let's see how it behaves. Oh, okay, very cool. So if we open it up this way, it does work a little bit better. So this is actually giving us what we want here. Testing. Oh, nice. So it is sort of picking up on even some of the more, or the lesser used types. So let's see if it picks up a rigid body. Nice. So actually it is picking up a lot of the more Unity specific functionalities, which is, or Unity specific variables, which is very cool. Sublime Text has plugins for that, but it's not really native. One thing that I want to do is actually maybe use this for a couple tutorials, and then I can create another video going over, after I've spent some more time in this, going over how well this works and how much I like it. One thing that I did notice is that it is generating the CS proj files. So if you're using Git or some sort of source control, you'd have to ignore those types of files from your repository. We do have the ability to build. Let's see what happens when we build all these. Okay, cool. So that seems to be working pretty well. Okay, so one final thing I wanted to do before ending this review is actually going through and taking a look at creating a new project. So I'm going to close that one out. Whoops. Let's do file, new solution. Okay, and as you can see here, you get a lot of options inside of your new solutions window. So we've got app, and we can do a forms app or a blank forms app. You can do native apps for iOS and Android, and we can even do the iOS or Mac, which is the sprite kit or scene kit for games. If we look in our library, so yeah, .NET, class library, tests, UI test app, that's interesting. Let's see here. Oh, okay, this is cool. So you can actually do like iOS apps as far as very much like Xcode does it, and you can choose between C# and F#. That's interesting. Android, again, we're going C# or F#. You can do Wear apps inside of this. This is cool. App. Coco for Mac. You can create a metal game through this. This is very cool. We've also got access to tvOS, .NET, and miscellaneous. So yeah, there's a lot of different templates that you can use here. So I'm just gonna very quickly choose a, let's see here, let's go multi-platform sprite kit game and click next. And this is a test. Click next. Okay, that's cool. I'm not gonna worry about source control for this. We're gonna click create. Cool, so if we look over in our solution window over here, we can see the name of the app, getting started. Let's see what this has. Oh, okay, this is giving us Xamarin Shared Project, so it's showing us we can run the app in a simulator. Oh, interesting, you can add an Azure mobile backend. You can add a unit test to the project. We can look at our resources. Oh, it's adding a spaceship, PNG. That's interesting. Very interesting. So it looks like this has actually created an entire test project for us. So let's actually run this app in an iOS simulator and see what it does. Okay, it says it failed to create a simulator wear type, sim device type. So it looks like it build was successful, but it couldn't actually create an iPhone simulator. So let's see if we can just do debug iPhone, see what happens if we try to build it this way. Okay, it looks like the build was successful again. We've got a quick hello world screen here. Looks like it's spinning. Oh, it's just adding a spinning spaceship. Interesting. It's not exactly a very fun game. That's okay though. I wonder what happens if I... Huh. That is interesting. So just giving us a quick sort of test, I guess. It's counting the nodes we're adding, and it's giving us a frame count. So that's pretty cool. You know, very quick sort of introduction project here. Let's see what we've got as far as the actual files. Let me stop that. So it's actually creating our storyboard. We're getting CS files, plist. Interesting. Let's see what our game scene has. Okay, so yeah, this is actually just saying on mouse down the sprite at the position of click, basically. So that's kind of cool. And then we've got our update function rendered here as well, so very cool stuff. Okay, so let's go through a little bit more here. Okay, so let's look at Windows, see what sort of windows we have access to. Doesn't look like there's a lot. Maybe there's a view. Yeah, view. Here we go. So we can change around the view, so we can look at like debug, design. So that's going to open up on the right-hand side. So this is sort of like Photoshop changing the layout of your window. So we've got a test like code here. Let's look at the pads here. Let's look at properties. Oh, so that's just over here. So that's just going to open up over here. All right, debug pads, breakpoints. We can look at the breakpoints we have. Let's see if they do the same type of... Okay, cool. So that's how you do the breakpoints again. You know, kind of like... MonoDevelop or Visual Studio on Windows actually does it. We look at our project, we can apply a policy export, analyze. Run code analysis on solution. Let's see what this does. Okay, I just canceled that build. It was taking way too long here. The next thing I want to actually do here, let's look version control. We can actually check out the project. We've got several options for running, building. Let's look at solution options, see what this gives us. So the solution options, we can set up some main settings, the author information, build. So this is where the build would go inside of the app name, build, bin, configuration. We're looking at the source code now, code formatting. Oh, so that's kind of cool. So you can control all of your version control within this application as well. Alright, okay, so that's pretty cool. It just sort of allows you to zoom in and zoom out and then reset, kind of like a web browser does. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this. Again, I just wanted to create a really very simple introduction to this, so that way maybe I save you guys some bandwidth. If you were thinking about maybe downloading this and trying it out, then if you like what you see here and you saw how I was using it with Unity and opening up this project, so if you saw this and said, hey, that looks kind of cool, maybe I'll try it out, then that's cool. If you saw it and said, yeah, I like my Sublime Text or whatever editor more, then that's cool too. I just wanted to create this video really quickly just to show you this new IDE that they've released and maybe cover some of what it can do. Let me know in the comments or by dropping us a like to see if whether or not you want me to go into more depth on how to use this application. Of course, we can take a deeper dive into it and maybe start to use it for more tutorials and things like that. We always want to try to be using technology that interests us and interests you guys as well. So I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe.